corner, and it's towards that ever-tightening right-hander that the cars go now, weaving around to generate a little bit of warmth into the Kumho tyres. But Charlie Butler-Henderson, Donington Park, really is a fantastic lap, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a fantastic circuit and a fantastic lap, as I've just said to Jenny. The guys, you can see, weaving their tyres from left to right just to try and generate a little bit of heat into the tyres. The race isn't the longest race ever, but they're on road tyres, or sort of a mixture of a sort of a cut slick, as it were, really. So they don't want to warm them up too much, because with these big heavy BMWs on top of those tyres, they're going to be working overtime. So you can just see them weaving around through the beautiful Craner curves there. Gary Whittaker, spoke to him earlier, on board now with him.
And this is the man that won the championship last year. He's very much the man to beat, really, in BMW racing at the moment, and doesn't just do this championship, goes off and races the car elsewhere as well. Very busy competitor. He runs an agency that recruits lorry drivers, so he is pretty busy at work, but does find enough time to do an awful lot of racing, and very successful he is too. And there, in its pseudo-brawn livery, is Colin Wells' car, rebuilt over the winter, much lighter. Last year it was quite a bit heavier than Gary Whittaker's similar mount. Now, Colin reckons they're about as close to being identical as is possible. His is just slightly heavier than Gary's car. And then look behind them, Carl Skitt, who was one of the front runners last year in a standard 318 compact, has got this new Irish touring car with a 3.2 litre engine in it. Now that is quite a bit of kit, but he's never really run at the head of the grid before, so he's going to be learning a little bit about the car and also learning about the opposition. He's never raced directly against the Whittakers and the Wells before.
Yeah, so being at the front of the grid then, he's going to be up against it, really, getting used to seeing not many cars in front of him, seeing who his new rivals are with that different engine size and different car. So you can hear the Gary Whittaker, the onboard camera there, braking. You just hear a slight squeaking of the brakes as he's generating heat into those tyres, bunching the grid up. It's down to him to bunch the grid up to keep it nice and fair and even. The course car, stroke safety car, will now pull in, going through the new reshaped chicane here at Donington Park.
Then we're going to be in business for the first of the two 15-minute Kumho BMW Championship races of the day, and the drag down towards Redgate Corner is going to be all important then as the lights go out. Carl Skitt trying to find a gap between the two front row drivers as they accelerate away now. Colin Wells gets a pretty good drop there, tries to level himself with Gary Whittaker, but he's going to be on the outside line going down towards Redgate, and Carl Skitt goes for a gap that's not really there. I thought they were going to make contact for a moment. He's certainly on his toes trying to find a way between the two front row drivers, but Gary Whittaker leads Colin Wells as they come through Redgate for the first time, and Carl Skitt staying with them, isn't he, in the compact in third place. Pretty brave effort that, going into Redgate.
Yes, we've got a bit of a lead. Gary's already starting to get a little bit of a lead. Still, those cars are still tail happy as they go through Craners, as they dip down ready for the old hairpin. A little bit of skittishness from the car that was into third there, going through a gap that wasn't really there, and he was looking quite aggressive because he was still weaving his tyres even just before the lights were just about to go out. So he was really on a mission, that guy.
So the cars making their way up through McLean's for the first time, and Colin Wells having to go defensive then in that second place, keeping Carl Skitt at bay, and that means that Gary Whittaker is just gapping the rest of them as they turn their way out of Coppice for the first time. One car there you can see that perhaps ought to be going a little bit better than this, Richard Baker, number 6, and also in danger of losing a place, Neil Eustace there. He does lose out, in fact, to the green and white car, going down towards the chicane for the first time. So up towards the end of lap 1 of 15 minutes of racing, Gary Whittaker it is, leading the way, trying to pull clear of everybody else. Whoops, big cloud of tar smoke. I think that's Neil Eustace locking up, coming down towards the chicane. It is, he survives it, gets away with it, powers his way now over the line. But at the end of lap 1 alone, Whittaker leading Wells by a second and a half. That's quite a margin.
Yeah, that is quite a margin. I spoke to him earlier and he was very, very confident. I said, how are you going to get on today? And he was like, yeah, absolutely fine, not a problem. The car that just locked up there, that's not going to be very, very comfortable to drive. You've got Gary just overtaking a back marker there, so somebody's obviously had a problem on the first lap.
It's keeping well out of the way, trying to identify who that is in the second. Car number 82 you can see, which is Tom Hibbert, getting out of everybody's way. So Carl Skitt picks away past him now. Colin Wells has already done so in second place. Now Colin is starting, I think, just to edge away a little bit from Carl Skitt. Behind them, somebody else returning to the series, Ian Hill, running in fourth place. Now Colin Wells needs to try to shake off the opposition. Look at this going on behind. You can see there James Card wriggling his way past Tom Hibbert as well. So that back marker running out of sequence and giving the leading drivers a bit of a headache in a sense, having to lap cars much earlier than is normally the case.
Yeah, we've got a bit of jostling for position there. It's not really a very good overtaking place into Coppice because you're bound to all lose the momentum as you leave Coppice, but he's still having a go. The pink and white striped car of, just trying to think of the name, No, can't think of it at the moment, but it's really jostling around there. The car's under braking, the back end of the car just sort of being all tail happy as they're nose diving the car onto that braking area for the chicane.
So over the line they come, and the car in question, the pink and white car 38 Mark Smith, one-time brick car racer, trying to get himself back into contention here as the cars dive down towards Redgate Corner. Somebody else in a bit of a hurry there in the orange car, Laurie Dunster, having raced in production BMWs before. Well, there is Tom Hibbert, who I'm afraid has had a very slow first lap, and it's an in-lap. Slowly down the pit lane he comes. Now, Gary Whittaker getting away still from Colin Wells. That gap is up to 2.2 seconds now. Through goes James Card, being pursued by Tom Wrigley, and then behind them you've got the man that leads Class B, Richard Marsh, who is a head chef by profession. Number 6 still pushing on as well, which is Richard Bacon. You get Bacon and the head chef together, I fear for the consequences. Up now through Schwantz Curve they go. This is lap 3, 11.5 minutes remain, and this long train of cars now all battling amongst themselves, Charlie.
I was just about to mention before your gag about the Bacon and the chef. Car number 6 there of Richard Bacon. It just looks like it should be driving down the M1. No stickers on it. It just looks absolutely brilliant. It's not been liveried up or painted different colours.
And he's looking to try and make a move on Laurie Dunster, and 2 wheels all over the curb and onto the grass even. He's certainly committed to this, isn't he? He's on the inside line coming down towards the chicane. So, Richard Bacon in the silver car, Laurie Dunster in his familiar orange livery just ahead. Has he got the line for the chicane? He has. Bacon has to slot back in behind him.
Yeah, Bacon wouldn't have actually lost too much there. He actually got a really good run. Just by kissing the dust and dirt there, that wouldn't have really affected it. I just think it was a straight drag between different powers of the classes and the cars, really.
And see, as they come down towards Redgate, he's dropped back just a little bit in a straight line. 0.6 of a second he is now behind Laurie Dunster, and then behind him you've got car number 8 of Graham Hurd, former Porsche 924 racer, looking also to try and join this battle. We've now got 10.5 minutes of the 15 remaining, and Gary Whittaker just keeps on getting faster. He's now 3 seconds clear of the opposition up front, as Richard Marsh in the meantime comes then now down through the old hairpin. And Richard Bacon, rather than attack Laurie Dunster, is coming under more and more pressure from Graham Hurd. There is the race leader, and he's making this look pretty easy.
Yeah, look at the relaxed driving style, got the dark visor down, because even though it's not the brightest day here, it's still getting a little bit of glare through that windscreen, so keeping the visor down. He's in his G-Sport prepared car. I think they prepare quite a lot of the cars that are on the grid, so it's a fairly even playing field. I think they've got nice little business there.
You can hear him rattle over the curb, can't you, coming out of the chicane. He's under no pressure. He's managed to shake off Colin Orson Wells as they come over the line. Carl Skitt still going well. First time out in this car in 3rd place. Gary Whittaker's lead is now 3.7 seconds. 7/10, give or take, pulled out over Colin Wells that time through. Now, just looking back there, you can see car number 3, which is Ian Hill. Is he going to be able to do anything about Carl Skitt? Last time around, his lap time was fractionally slower, in fact, even though the car looks rapid, and he was a little bit wayward coming out of Redgate there up over the curb.
Yeah, and the lap times, looking at Gary's lap times, he's about 5/10 off his qualifying lap. So I think he knows he may have this one in the bag, and he's just saving his car ready for the next race, possibly. But looking very relaxed, and he was very confident when I spoke to him earlier. He knew that he was going to have it in the bag early on.
And Colin Wells was the complete opposite. He came testing in the week and found the car was okay. Turned up this morning. He said, I just can't get it to handle. I don't know what it's doing. Now you can see there, having made a bit of progress, is Graham Hurd in number 8. Laurie Dunster has dropped back behind Richard Bacon. So there's been a real sort out between this gaggle of 5 of them running nose to tail, heading up towards Schwantz Curve. Richard Marsh still leading his class, though, even though he has dropped back in terms of overall placing.
Also, just watching Graham Hurd there in car number 8, having the wipers flick on as he went through Craners, so he either had a little bit of a scary moment and flicked the wipers with his racing glove in a panic situation. It's always a telltale sign of a scary moment on the steering wheel.
Richard Marsh in the yellow car there, leading his class. We have now got the head chef and Bacon, in fact, side by side. Does he want to get involved for an overall battle, or just let the quicker cars go and take the class points? Down they come towards the chicane, and Bacon slices up the inside. That's going to give him another place.
Yeah, lovely move, very, very clean, very tidy. Oh, and getting a lovely slide on the exit. That was absolutely beautiful car control on the exit there. Fantastic stuff. And those curbs at that chicane really do punish the tyres, suspension, and they could damage even the underneath sump of the car. So everyone is very daunted about those red curves.
So that's put now Richard Bacon up into 8th place. Richard Marsh down to 9th, but still leading his class. Mark Smith, we saw earlier, he's leading the invitation class at the moment as well. And lower down the order, car number 83, Matthew Fielding, leading at the moment the Class D battle for the smaller engine cars, mainly the compacts, the cars with the lowest power to weight ratio. Right, Gary Whittaker leading the way. It's 4 seconds now, that margin. We're at the halfway point of the race, and barring a disaster, this looks like it's his race for the taking.
Yeah, so he's pretty much just touching about 124 miles an hour, going down into fourth, then third for the chicane. Just watching his feet on the pedals there, kissing the curbs. You can hear him going over the rumble strips, the brrr of the rumble strips. Again, approaching 100, coming up to just under 130. And he brakes, goes down to fourth and third. He was telling me he was going straight to third, but I said to him, maybe you need to go to fourth, then third, and he's obviously copying exactly what I've just told him. So he'll be enjoying Craners, and he says it's nearly flat, very nearly flat, but as he goes through the Craner curves, which we're looking at now, if you do take it flat in a big car like this, it pushes you too wide for the entry to the old hairpin. But the car looks absolutely stunning. Reminds me, looking back at my touring car videos with Jochen Winkelhock and Frank Sittner and the like. So great livery there.
And he's about to get busy, isn't he? Not in terms of defending, but look, traffic ahead and traffic getting all sideways. That marker there getting all crossed up. That was Carl Jones.
And because of that, then he put off the car, the silver and with the white stripes, which is car number, or just missed it. But yeah, looking at the back markers there, he's got a side through. It's making it look easy, you know, cutting like cutting butter. You know, he's just really sliding through there. Very, very easy, but a bit of action there for him. The last thing you need leading a race from such a distance is to get tangled up with back markers or maybe inexperienced drivers that are just learning the ropes and enjoying themselves.
Yeah, very busy having their own battle, weren't they? And Gary Whittaker has managed to find a way past all three. Colin Wells has got past one, worked his way now through the traffic then over the start and finish line. 7 laps are in the book, and the gap has come down on that lap because Gary Whittaker did have to lift in the traffic and to avoid any contact. The gap has come down to 3.3 seconds, but I think that's a blip really, and it was down to the traffic more, to be fair, than Colin Wells being able to up his pace. So down through the Craner curves they come, 3.3 seconds between the top two, and now if the road is going to be clear for the next few corners, Gary Whittaker can get his head down once again and try and build that advantage.
Yeah, running wide there at the old hairpin. The old hairpin's got fairly fresh soil on the exit where lots of people get it wrong because they try and go too fast. So you just from kicking up a bit of dirt there. Coming into McLean's now, very easy to cut loads of curb. And let's have a little look at a replay now of what happened earlier with the back markers.
You're on board with Gary Whittaker going up towards McLean's. He turns in, but it all happens ahead, doesn't it?
So one of the cars gets really sideways, and then all of a sudden, whoa, the car cuts across him then. That wasn't even part of the initial first incident. So his heart would have definitely been in his mouth, leading a race, thinking this isn't good at the moment. So he's got away with it.
Yeah, but still the car is Philip Grayson. Now, you see the car ahead get all sideways. Grayson, I think, tries to avoid that. He runs wide, look, gets sideways on the dirt and slides straight across the front of the race leader, Gary Whittaker.
But great car control from all of them. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Rear-wheel drive BMW action at its best, definitely.
And there aren't enough rear-wheel drive championships around these days, he says, getting on his soapbox. We've got 4.5 minutes of the race remaining. Gary Whittaker's gap has come down again, though. 3 seconds. Colin Wells has just done a personal best lap. So as the race wears on, he is upping his pace. You do get the feeling that Gary Whittaker might have something in reserve, but there you can see coming down to the old hairpin, Colin Wells now is really pushing, isn't he?
Yeah, he's looking really aggressive, the way he was taking lots of curb there at the old hairpin. Absolutely fantastic. The car looks like it's being driven with anger, whereas you've got Gary Whittaker there leading. Looks like he's sort of chilled out a little bit, but I think when he sees those lights getting bigger and bigger in his rear view mirror, he's going to start to up his pace again. So interesting to see the lap times of Whittaker very shortly.
There is Colin Wells, this is the man second, and he's chasing, and he's on the limit as the tyres squeal in protest, out of copies, but this is a car that looks like it gets stronger late in the race. Trouble is, it's only a 15-minute race, we've got 3.5 minutes still to run. He's going to run out of time, isn't he? Down to the chicane. Coming through the right, then the left-handed element of the chicane now. Colin Wells up over the line. 9 laps are now done, and the gap between the pair of them is going to be down again. It's down to 2.9 seconds now. Through Redgate, Colin Wells into the right-hander, working his way through traffic at the same time. He's just got past Peter Miller's car, so 2.9 seconds and 3 minutes to go. 2 personal best laps in a row being set by Colin Wells now. He is pushing, but is he going to have a chance of catching the race leader?
Well, Whittaker's fairly confident enough to still hop in a 16.1 there, so he's very, very consistent. His last lap was a 16.7, so I think he is relaxing a little bit. I think he's saving his car and tyres ready for the second race that we have here from Donnington Park. But the back markers, I think, have played quite an even spread here, really. Gary's been held up, and the car number 14 of Wells has also been held up a bit. So I think the last bit of back... Oh, car number 30.
It's Richard Marsh, who was leading Class B, don't forget, when we last saw him involved in that train. He has done a huge amount of damage to the barriers, hasn't he? Look at that.
Yeah, and that looks like it's on the exit of the chicane, so maybe turned in a bit early, kissed the curb and got the back end out, but maybe we might be able to see some footage of that later, but not good. So yellow flags will be waved. The drivers will all be aware of that to back off a little bit, and he's made a bit of a mess of that with the circuit and his car, unfortunately.
Yes, that is one that we may not see in race 2, and it's going to be a bit of a work job needed for the marshals, I think, after this, to put the barriers back to how they should be. So the Class B leader ends up now with a rather crumpled car. That's the aftermath of it. He bounces off the barriers. It's quite an impact, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think he's got it wrong. He's obviously gone in too fast, clipped those curbs and just forced him out. And another incident with car number 91.
That's Darren Beckley in strife at Schwann's Curve.
Yeah, that's quite a fast off as well, really. You don't really want to be going off there, so not an ideal place. So these guys, you know, maybe new to racing, losing their concentration, or the car's just going off and tyres getting a bit tired.
Somebody else there flirting with danger as well is James Ford in his 318 Ti Compact, running a little bit wide, coming out of Coppice then. What have we got left? A minute and 20 seconds, that's all. And Whittaker to Wells, that gap has gone up once again to 3.5 seconds. So Gary Whittaker now looks like he's asserting his authority once again. Colin Wells, as we saw, was getting held up in traffic, and in the background I think gets a little bit sideways as well coming out of Coppice. So it's Gary Whittaker, the reigning champion, looking to open his 2012 account in the same vein. There he is, out of the chicane. He will now come past that incident zone, and this is going to be the last lap of the race, because he will go across the timing line with just over 50 seconds remaining. So onto the last lap goes Gary Whittaker. Really has been a faultless drive, hasn't it?
Yeah, and Wells as well. I'd take my hat off to Wells, really sort of digging quite deep with the last sort of 6-7 minutes to go. He really did start to scythe through those back markers and give Gary a little bit of a hard time, really. We don't want to have it easy, do we? We don't want to have a nice easy drive for Gary. We want a little bit of rivalry going on here.
Colin Wells can beat Gary Whittaker. Gary's not invincible. He's a reigning champion, but Colin Wells was able to beat him last year at the end of the season, for example, at Brands Hatch. They won a race apiece, but certainly around here, it's just the way that the car will not handle as Colin Wells wants it that is helping Gary Whittaker to increase that advantage. He's in the traffic once again. Back markers turning their way through the old hairpin, including Carl Skitt. And then behind him, you've got Ian Hill. And Ian Hill goes wide, and he's going to spin, is he? Yes, he's on the grass. He loses it, does a complete 180 at least. Facing the wrong way, the smoke and the dust settles, and now, having been in 4th place, he's got to get himself sorted out. But this is going to cost him a whole heap of places, Charlie, on the very last lap.
Yeah, that started from Craners. He got pushed out wide on the outside, trying to do an excitable move. We go back to the leader again, obviously going, hopefully crossing the line for the race win. But yeah, that incident that we've just seen, a real shame that, but a very exciting move late on.
Indeed. Checkered flag. Gary Whittaker wins the first round of the Kumho BMW Championship, and he wins by 2.8 seconds in the end. Colin Wells comes home in 2nd place, frustrated that he just can't get on a Whittaker pace. He's well clear of the rest of them. Carl Skitt, first time out in his 3.2 litre compact, comes over the line now to be 3rd, and in 4th place it's his 19-year-old Tom Wrigley, the kart track manager, going pretty well, inheriting 4th on that last lap after Ian Hill had his spin. So late in the race, quite a lot happening with people having their own dramas. You can see Mark Smith going through, having been the man leading the invitation class onto this last lap. He should be able to hang on to that, because the opposition that he has in the person of Paul Bellamy's M3 is a long way back. So Mark Smith getting himself to the head of this queue of cars, being chased here by Laurie Dunster as they drop down towards the chicane. The rest of the field coming through with, in 5th place, James Card, and 6th after his spin, Ian Hill. Mark Smith comes over the timing line now to win the invitation class, and that is going to put him into the top 10 overall. In fact, getting ahead of Des Thresh on that last lap. Des Thresh himself, another former class champion. So Gary Whittaker, on occasions, being a bit impeded by the traffic, but making that look pretty easy, and we have seen that before in the Kumho BMW Championship. Colin Wells and the rest of them are going to have to work even harder, aren't they, come race 2, in order to stop a Whittaker whitewash here at Donington Park.
Yeah, what a fantastic race, really. Racing going back. There's an on board with Gary, looking very relaxed, very confident. Visor still down, another race win for him under his belt. So very confident young man, and I just hope that Wells can give him a bit more of a hard time.
And at his local circuit as well, the dramas began on the very first lap, and you can see why Tom Hibbert was a long way back, because he had that drama going into the gravel, in fact, at the very first corner. And then a big lock-up a little bit later on from Neil Newstead. Gary Whittaker, though, making life look very easy at the front of the field. Turned their way through, but behind him, others had their own problems. Roger Lavender getting it wrong coming out of the old hairpin. He had that spin heading up towards Schronzker, was able to sort himself out. And then, just ahead of the race leader, all fun and games amongst the traffic with, in the end, the car, Philip Grace, very nearly getting in his way. Big drama, though, for Class B leader Richard Marsh, taking him out of the race, and then onto the grass at Schronzker, Darren Beckley spinning himself down the order, but thankfully for him, nothing solid to hit.
So great action, really. Oh, and another spin. Bit too excitable on the throttle there, still on that sort of damp, moist grass. So lots of action all the way down the field. Here we go, car just getting it wrong on the exit of the old hairpin.
That was Ian Hill on the last lap, throwing away what should have been 4th place, dropped to 6th in the end. But no such dramas for Gary Whittaker, who was able to come through and take the checkered flag and score victory by 2.8 seconds.
Yeah, very lucky there as he went sideways that he didn't cut across some of his colleagues that he was driving against.
And that's Graham Hurd, also car number 8, in danger of getting it wrong on the last lap, and that car also looking very smoky.
Yeah, looks a little bit unhealthy, that, so we'll keep an eye out for that for the second race this afternoon.
So a win for Whittaker then. The man from Nottingham wins at his home circuit, and on that evidence, don't bet against him winning race 2 as well. The opposition are really going to have to work very hard indeed in order to